Hi guys, today I'll be talking about the tablet mod. If you go to tabletmod.com, you'll find out that it's actually a really great Cintiq alternative. It's an acrylic enclosure with an LCD screen all wrapped around your Wacom Intuos 4 large tablet. If you decide to build one of these, it usually costs anywhere between $200 to $300. Again, a very inexpensive alternative to the actual Cintiq. Right now I have my Cintiq on an actual Ergotron arm. Fits and sits really nicely. It's VESA compatible, so it's really easy to hook up. Also, the Intuos 4 never gets disrupted in any way. You don't take it apart, you don't do anything to the actual tablet except actually put it inside this enclosure. Okay, so the Tablet Mod V2 version is the glued on version. You use super glue basically to put it together. From what I hear, the actual screw on version is the one that actually you can detach the tablet from very easily and put it back in. One of the problems with that one, as far as what I've heard, is that the LCD screen eventually starts breaking from the actual connectors up on top. I've never had that problem. I don't actually take this out once it was in, and I was happy with it. It stayed in. Never had to be replaced. It is a really nice machine. I do like the actual functionality. I don't lose anything as far as like the Wacom compatibilities of the drivers, the actual function of the tablet, you know, using all my buttons, utilizing everything that I need to here while I'm working. And essentially, it's a really nice machine overall. The only thing you can argue is that it's not big of a space as like the Monoprice 19-inch or the Yenova 22-inch or the Yenova 19-inch or the Huion 19-inch. But what I can say about those that this one has over them is, first of all, it's Wacom technology, so the drivers don't have to be changed. You don't have to do any crazy kooky things and make it actually work. You still keep all the functionality if you're used to using an actual Wacom with all your shortcuts and everything on the actual side. You don't lose any of that. The heat that actually emanates from the screen. Now, I know for a fact that Cintiqs themselves emanate tons of heat. At least the older models do. I haven't tried the actual 22-inch one yet, but from what I hear, that one probably doesn't do as much as it used to. So they've probably found a way to actually shield that pretty well. The Yenova does emanate some heat. If I had to gauge all the tablets that I've tested in row of heat eminence, it would probably be the Cintiq 21UX being the worst, the Yenova coming in second, either the 22 or the 19, the Monoprice tablet third, and then this actual tablet mod enclosure fourth. You can play on this for hours. You can draw to your heart's delight, and you won't actually feel any heat. More than anything, you might feel a little lukewarmness here, but it's very minimal. I wouldn't consider it actual heat. At most, you know, just a lukewarm feeling sensation here after about so maybe 6 to 8 hours of work. Aside from that, again, all the functionality stays the same. Nothing gets changed. You have a nice Cintiq alternative that's stationary, and more importantly, it didn't cost you $2,000 to get it. Yeah, at that price, I don't think you can beat it. Overall, the cost for this $200 to $300. The Huion, I think, is $600 plus, and I know that the Yenova 22-inch is the $1,000 range, or pretty close to $1,000 range, and then the 19-inch is about, I want to say, about $700. So overall, if you're willing to put in the time to actually build one of these, and you want to save yourself some money and not have to worry about selling your old Intuos 4 large tablet, this is actually a really good buy. I just want to state too that, you know, as far as building it, I wouldn't be too scared of doing it. It's pretty easy to do. I'm not a very tech savvy guy, and I was able to do it without a problem. It's a really nice piece of equipment. It's good for anybody who wants to have that Cintiq feel. Okay. So now I'm actually going to start drawing on the actual tablet so you can see some of the functionality of the actual pen, and also talk about the issues that some people have with these actual screens. Do all Cintiqs and Cintiq alternatives have a problem with color? For the majority, yes, with the exception of the new HDs. I'm sure those are more accurate. From what I hear, though, the actual screen itself, and I've seen it myself, still has that little graininess, tooth, whatever it is. I like drawing on a smooth surface, which is why I actually put a piece of glass on top of this tablet mod. I like the smoothness of it. I also like, some people complain about reflection, but I don't actually necessarily have a light shining directly on here. You might see a light now because of the angle I'm actually drawing so that you can see it, but for the majority of the time I don't actually have a light hitting it, so there's not a big deal about that. As far as the color accuracy, all Cintiq alternatives have this problem. Even the IPS panel versions do to some extent. They probably come the closest, but you're also paying the extra money for it as well. And again, it's not actual Wacom technology, so you're still having to suffer through the whole like figure out how to do this to make it work kind of deal. Which isn't to say you have to figure out how to actually put this thing together as well. But again, two different levels of difficulty. But all at the same time, the majority of the artists that actually draw on one of these usually have an IPS panel or a high retina display via their Mac or whatever it is that they're using for their actual computer. So there's always a secondary monitor that you can actually calibrate your colors to and use this as your actual drawing tablet. The plus side of actually having this tablet, more importantly, is that you actually get to draw on the screen. There is no disconnect between your hand and eye coordination when you're drawing directly on screen. It's like drawing on a piece of paper. So that being said, I don't understand the complaints that actually go out there, but understandably so. People want the perfect tablet. Will there ever be a perfect tablet? We would like to hope so, but for the time being, this will make up for that in, I guess, the meantime. So the other thing I guess I should cover is parallax. Parallax is the actual distance from your pen to the actual screen and how far the cursor is from the pen to the actual screen. Right now, probably from the angle that you're looking at, there's probably going to be some type of separation. It won't actually be like right on the money, but from where the angle or the angle that I'm actually drawing this on, for me, it's right where I need it to be. It's on my eye level. It's a little bit to the right and a little bit right below the cursor, which is where I want it so I can actually see what I'm actually drawing, as opposed to like being hidden over the actual pen. So in that aspect, it's perfect for me. It might not be perfect on the actual video, but it's sitting right where it needs to be. And all that has to do with mapping, how close and how accurate you are with mapping. If you're really, really accurate, you're going to get a really nice accuracy from your pen or your cursor, very little parallax. If you're not that accurate, then you're going to have obviously some greater distance. The only way you can actually see parallax from this actual tablet is if I were actually resting my head on one side of the screen and then pointing my actual cursor on the other side of the screen. I rarely do that, so that's not an issue for me. Other than that, I don't see the parallax when I'm actually drawing. There's no like distance between what I'm doing and what's actually being put on the actual file or the actual drawing that I'm working on. So, other than that, do you still maintain the 2048 levels of pressure? Yes. Do you still maintain functionality on the buttons? Of course. That's one thing. Again, that's one thing that the Cintiq alternatives don't have just yet. Hopefully one day they will. They'll have an actual like button functionality so you can do shortcuts. Some people don't mind them. They don't need them. They use the keyboard. That's understandable. I've always had shortcuts on my tablet, so it's always been a plus side for me. When I've used it, it just speeds up the process for me all the time. And again, the actual usage of having this tablet, or the plus side of anything, is that you actually get to draw directly on screen. Other than that, works just like everything else. Sometimes I'll get asked, does this actually speed up your process? And to an extent it does, but the way I do my actual work is very, very, I guess, long. I usually sketch everything that you see here and eventually turn it back to actual print, a print version. I'll transfer those lines out from a light table to an actual illustration board, ink those lines traditionally, shade traditionally, either in pencil or marker or whatever medium I decide to use, and then I actually bring it back in, rescan it, color it up again in manga, and basically go from there. So it's a pretty long duration. Do I do anything beginning to end digital? I've done some complete to beginning to end, but it's not a preference for me, mainly because I like to sell the original art that I built. You know, can't really necessarily, you know, sell a digital file to somebody. I guess to an extent you could, but you know, that's not a preference that I have. I like having an original piece that, you know, somebody can actually own for the time and effort that I actually put into it. So other than that, there's not really much to say. This is a really good tablet to have. So the last thing I'm going to show is the actual finished, or at least more finished ink that I did on this actual piece. And then I'm going to go and look at my actual IPS panel and show you how accurate or how close the image actually is. All in all, this is a 22-inch panel. It's almost a 11 by 17, which is usually the illustration board that I'm working on, or sometimes a 13 by 19, just depending. The inking is fairly decent so far. Again, these are just preliminary lines anyway. It's more just to actually get the idea of what I need to do, and then from there transfer those to actual illustration board. So there's my IPS panel. I'm using this for my actual reference, and here's my actual tablet mod when I'm actually working. So you guys have any questions, let me know. Thanks a lot, guys. Visit TABLETMOD.com if you want to build one of these, or hit me up at oldschool85.com if you want to look at some of the artwork that I've done. Any questions, again, just contact me.